Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, having a fantastic weekend so far, and I appreciate you folks joining me this morning as we discuss in detail what's going to happen today in regards to severe weather. The chances for severe weather for a pretty large area has increased per the latest storm prediction update from overnight in the wee hours of the morning. They usually issue a new update, and it came out around 2 or 3, 4 o'clock this morning, and they have a large enhanced risk now for a lot of people. Millions of people will be impacted today by severe thunderstorms. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's driving it, talk about the evolution of the storms, certain areas that I think have the highest chance to maybe see a brief tornado. And I will try to figure this out for you folks. This will be a very detailed video, pretty long video, and I'm sorry I'm dropping it so late compared to the normal weekly videos, but just got a little bit of a late start this morning, kind of like yesterday morning. But regardless, we're going to figure this one out for you guys because it's going to impact a lot of people's outdoor activities. And damaging winds, large hail's the biggest threat with this today, so we'll break it down for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over? As always, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. I can pray over it, and I promise you others will do so too. Appreciate the ongoing support so far in the first 1/3 of June. It's been pretty good, consistent growth and just steady as she goes. So I appreciate the support, guys. First off, we normally look at water vapor loop, their first panel, right? Well, we'll take a look at the Storm Prediction Center, more broad take on it really quickly, and there's a reason I'm doing it like this. But slight risk right here for areas of Colorado, the Front Range of Colorado, southeast Colorado, the Panhandle of Oklahoma, and northern portions of the Panhandle of Texas. It does include a very small section of southwest Kansas, a very small section of northeast New Mexico. This is the big storyline today. Huge area that is under the gun for severe weather. Slight risk, that's a level 2 out of 5 in the yellow. This extends from the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way up into southern portions of Ohio, all the way down into central Georgia, and then all the way up to portions of like southern Illinois, and then kind of the Boot Hill regions of Missouri. Excuse me. The enhanced risk is the area today we are watching for the highest tornado threat. Even though it's not that high, there will be a risk, and we'll see if this uptrends on the next update within the next hour or so. But this is definitely a damaging wind, a large hail threat, enhanced risk right into here. We're going to get in detail with this here in a second, so stay tuned with me, and we'll break down like the category risk of each threat here in a second. But this is the broad take of what's going on today. Okay, large area under the gun for some strong to severe storms today. Memphis, Nashville, all the way up to central Kentucky, all the way down to Atlanta. Atlanta is included in the enhanced risk now, guys. So this is more so later this evening, I'm thinking. But let's take a look at what's going on water vapor loop. Okay, so we have a surface low right into here. And I'm going to try to color on this the best way I can. It's right into here. Here's an L for surface low pressure. All right, we have moist air surging into this region. Okay, there's a warm front somewhere into here. Okay, cold front trailing behind. Well, it's trailing on top of this, and well, it's up here. Cold front coming in behind this, so ignore that first line. So this will set the atmosphere, set the stage for a lot of storm development in this entire region today, even all the way into the Carolinas. A lot of big-time storms are possible in this entire circled region. All right, surface low, this is taking a more southerly track than what we see this time of the year, but this is kind of the same kind of setup as what you would see in April or May in this kind of stuff. You got a low pressure at the base of this upper trough that's extending down here from the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, and then below this low pressure, you have all the ingredients needed for severe weather. So that will be the case today. I'll show you a couple other ways to look at this too. One way to look at it is the actual surface breakdown of what's going on. This is exactly what's going on right now. The low pressure in general is right here where you have these closed lines. That is in general where our surface low is. Here comes the cold front. So it was closer to the first line I drew. You just the dry punch of air is lagging way up here, and you can see that on water vapor loop. The dry air is up here. It's just lagging, which is typically the case, but you got the cold front more so right here, which makes sense. It shows it right here draping across portions of Nebraska, the Missouri-Iowa state line, and then portions of Illinois and Indiana. This is where more dry, stable air is working in at the same time that this low pressure is moving across. So if you look really closely, and it's going to be hard to do so, but we'll kind of zoom into this a little bit, and hopefully you can see it well. But this is the warm front. So this is a separation between cooler, more dry conditions on this side of the front, and then moist air right here. So if you look right here, you see the green numbers, that's dew points. Dew points in the 60s. Dew points even probably some 70s down here, upper 60s. But if you go on this side of this warm front, you still have dry air, dew points in the 50s in kind of eastern Tennessee, North Carolina. And now it's starting to already get moist in South Carolina. Even the warm front, he hasn't even worked through. But you got dew points in the 40s in West Virginia, Southwest Virginia, dew points in the 50s. So this entire area, all the way up until Ohio, where you in Ohio, you got dew points in the 40s. Moist air will surge, and with this low pressure moving in and this warm front advancing this way, okay, in general. All right, so that's kind of what's going on. I don't want to show this much, but it's always interesting to kind of figure out what's going on. Normally with the low pressure like this, you have a warm front associated with it outside, at the kind of the eastern, southeastern quadrant of it. Another way to look at this is the actually surface of what's falling. I mean, this is Missouri, right? This is Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. You can actually see a little bit of a spin, right? It's kind of wrapping in like this. That is our surface low, almost right over St. Louis right now. So a lot of beneficial rains falling in this region of Illinois, Indiana, a lot of rainfall, nothing severe warmed in this cluster of heavier rain. And you got rain already moving through portions of eastern Tennessee. You got some rain, even heavier activity, even a little bit of a spin down here. Really interesting feature moving into Georgia right now out of Alabama. But these storms will kind of be the first round. I think these areas, this area storm right here will give areas like South Carolina, even western North Carolina, some storm activity. But it's this atmosphere right here that will destabilize, okay? And obviously a more larger area, because once this rain moves through, this entire area will destabilize with the low pressure. And then this is our warm sector right here. And we're talking about this kind of stuff in like March or April or even early May. But here we are, mid-June pretty much. And we're talking about it now. So pretty interesting to see this. So that's kind of what's driving this. And we'll talk about the actual ingredients here in a second. I know that kind of lulls some people asleep a little bit, like, Mitch, just tell me if my house is going to get hit by a severe storm or not. But I'll never stray away from explaining what exactly is going on in the atmosphere or the surface. It's very interesting to me. And I think it's very important for you guys as the audience to at least have a little bit of an understanding of what's driving these things. One thing, and I'll briefly mention this, it's like yesterday, I'm a big South Carolina Gamecock fan. We played Florida in baseball, and everybody was ripping and raving about why they delayed the game. And they're like, there's no storms. There's nothing. We're at the game. There's, it's just bright, sunny skies. But what they didn't realize is 25 miles down the road, there was storms popping off lightning. And just because you didn't see it there, it didn't mean on the way. And people just look at their hourly forecast and are like, well, it says at 2:45 it's not supposed to rain. So why is it raining? Remember, guys, that's why it's important to have a radar. They're very easy to figure out. They're color-coded and everything. But anyways, I'll get off my soapbox there. There is a risk of flash flooding occurring. And I would watch out the Georgia region, even Birmingham, over to Augusta, Georgia. There is a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met in this yellow area. So there is a real risk for a little bit of flooding. I think this portion right here of the southeast will have multi rounds of storms that moves through. We'll have to watch the Front Range in eastern Colorado for some flooding issues too, and just more showers and storms over here. There is a marginal risk out west too. So there will be a small risk of some flooding occurring. So let's break down the severe weather threat for today. So a little bit closer look at this for the people who live in this region, which is a lot of people who view my channel, and I appreciate you guys very much for trusting me. Memphis, Tennessee, okay? Let's work west to east here. Jonesboro, Arkansas, might as well say. Memphis, Tennessee. Jackson, Dyersburg, Nashville, Clarksville, you guys are in it. Bowling Green, not quite up to Louisville, has an enhanced risk, but Lexington, Kentucky, might as well say has an enhanced risk, okay? London, Kentucky, Danville, Liberty, all the way down into western Tennessee, Cookeville, Chattanooga, even though the Atlanta metro is cut between the enhanced and slight, you might as well say Atlanta is included in the enhanced risk, right? Dalton in North Georgia, Rome in Georgia, Gadsden, Birmingham, you guys have an enhanced risk. Huntsville, Florence, Tupelo. Always shy away from saying that, and I should know my southern cities because I live in the South. But you guys correct me if I butchered that. Oxford, Mississippi, all these areas right here. But you can't ignore the slight risk either. There's a slight risk that extends all the way up to Cincinnati, almost all the way up to Dayton, the Columbus region. It extends all the way into the Greenville, Spartanburg area, all the way down to Macon, Georgia, Montgomery, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Little Rock, all the way over to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we talk about the risk area today. I want to let you guys know this could change, okay? This is as of 8:14 a.m. So there's another update that will come out within the hour. I would not be surprised if they put a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location in this region. This would show up in the brown, but right now that's not it. But there is a 2% risk of a tornado. This does include Nashville, up to Lexington, Kentucky. This does include all the way up to, areas of like Cincinnati, okay, Louisville. You guys have a 2% risk. And you're thinking, well, Mitch, why doesn't this cover the entire enhanced risk? Well, that's because the low pressure is up here. Where the closer you are to the low pressure, the better kinematics you have, the better of a wind pattern aloft that you have for a tornado threat. So basically, where the best thermodynamics, your best moisture return, high temperatures, and your best winds aloft, wherever they overlap or underlap each other, that is where you will always have your highest tornado threat. And I would argue it's somewhere in Kentucky or maybe northern Tennessee, right here in this region, okay? But the biggest threat, regardless, even if it upgrades to a 5% risk, is hail and wind. Large hail is, if you get hit by a storm today, you got a good chance to see some kind of hail. It's a small, medium, large size hail, but Memphis up to Nashville, down to Huntsville, down to Florence, Alabama, almost down to Birmingham. In this red area, that is at least a 30% chance to see hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger within 25 miles in any given location. The yellow is the same criteria, but there's a 15% chance of it, okay? So hail is going to be an issue today, all right? Winds, the red area right in here, I could see a big-time cluster of storms developing, and I would not be surprised if we get a hatch risk issued in the next update of hail, or either winds or both, but we'll see what happens. But the red you see here, that is at least a 30% chance of seeing winds exceeding 50 knots or higher within 25 miles in a given location. And if you don't know knots, which I understand, I can't shoot it off my head either. That's around 55 to 60 miles per hour, a mile per hour reading. So a 60 mile per hour wind gust can be a damaging wind gust depending on how light the object is, what's blowing around your yard, things like that. But, this includes Atlanta to Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Birmingham, Huntsville, all the way to Memphis, Oxford, Mississippi, almost all the way back to Little Rock, okay? So this is a big threat today. So let's take a broad look at what could develop today. And we're not going to stay on this long because we're going to zoom into each individual region. But a whole look at the southeast. You see the surface low up here, right? Cruising through Illinois and then getting into Indiana. First off, first round of storms moves through the Carolinas probably early mid-afternoon, right? This moves through. And then the big-time area of storms gets going in Kentucky, Tennessee, all the way down to Mississippi. Watch these clusters of storms in Arkansas, and then watch some big-time storms around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, points south and east. And then we watch for a huge cluster of storms that just pretty much rumble through the entire overnight hours throughout the deep south, including Mississippi, definitely Alabama, definitely Georgia, and upstate South Carolina, Western Carolinas in general. So let's take a zoomed-in approach on each individual region. Let's talk about Arkansas first. Arkansas will get this going. Already some activity going out there right now, but we'll watch for the atmosphere to destabilize. Could have some storms in southern areas of Missouri. But as we're working our way into, and for you folks in Kentucky, Tennessee, I'm going to talk about you guys. I'm really focusing in on Arkansas in this time frame. But we keep this going, and I would say 5, 6, 7 p.m., you could have some storms that really get going, some of which could be severe. But I would say the higher severe weather threat is definitely to your east. But just watch out anywhere from central northern Arkansas Some powerful storms are possible. The Dallas-Fort Worth area, you could get some big-time storms. You're lacking big-time forcing, so there's a question on whether these storms will actually form or not, but we'll see if they do. But around late evening, you guys could get some storm action out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and these could drift into maybe northeast Texas. We'll see what happens with that. But we keep going, and I don't think you guys are going to have a super active day in Arkansas. But listen, this is just one run of the HRRR model. All right, you look at the NAM, see what this shows, and it shows a little bit more robust activity for Arkansas today. Okay, it shows definitely some big storms right near the Little Rock area, northern Arkansas, later this evening. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at areas of the Ohio Valley, including southern Illinois, southern Indiana, southern and central Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee on this panel. So we get going, and this is the area I want to watch. All right, so we get to about lunchtime. You're already having clusters of storms developing. Will these be severe limits? It just depends on how far north this boundary of moist air makes it. And wherever the moist air is, that's where you have your storm fuel, your higher CAPE levels. So we got to watch to see if these are reaching severe limits. Regardless, if you're in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and Ohio, you're going to get a lot of heavy rain this afternoon. But once you get into Kentucky, I mean, anywhere from basically Paducah, Kentucky, Mayfield, pretty much any town or community in Kentucky has an equal chance to see some powerful storms today. And even up here in Ohio, okay, Cincinnati, Dayton, once you get up to kind of the Columbus area, I think you're starting to lack ingredients. But I mean, here in this area of kind of southern and southwest Ohio, these storms could be intense around 3, 4, 5 p.m. this afternoon. These storms could be intense right here also, producing some hail, damaging winds in southern Indiana. But I think you got some dry air working in, and then your ingredients is dropping off substantially. In Kentucky, any of these storms, and this is around 4 p.m. Central Time. This is in Eastern Time, so 5 p.m., but this is in 4 p.m. You got storms pretty much everywhere except Eastern Kentucky at this point, but the storms will eventually make it to Eastern Kentucky. Pretty intense line of storms showing up in kind of the southern half of Ohio around 6, 7 p.m. But I mean, around dinner time this evening, it'll be a stormy afternoon and evening for Kentucky. These storms start to really develop maybe in northeast Tennessee first. So, I would say, if you're the Knoxville area, Morristown, anywhere basically up here and kind of northeast areas of Tennessee, far southwest and western areas of Virginia, you could get some storms as early as 6, 7 p.m. And these will kind of move into the southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. But then we'll see a more organized line of storms that could be quite powerful. And these might be the storms that eventually get into the Nashville area. These could affect down here near Memphis also, even though you don't really see it well. Right here, they definitely could. And then they sweep through the entire state of Tennessee, I think, throughout the evening hours into the late evening hours. And then by then, your threat is over. Okay, but the updraft Felicity swath, remember, this is the area I'm more concerned about a tornado threat right into here. It does show some of these storms rotating in Kentucky, even southern Indiana, southern Ohio, and this is right near that low pressure. So right near the low pressure and south of it, you could have enough ingredients right into here for a quick spin up. But some of these right here will definitely have some higher winds aloft, and enough kinematics, that's what I'm meaning, the winds aloft, the favorable wind pattern aloft, meaning above our heads, to put a spin to some of these storms. So please take this serious. If you get a tornado warning today, don't be surprised. In Kentucky and Tennessee, don't be surprised one bit. Southern Indiana, southern Ohio, some of these storms can produce, okay? The winds with these storms, guys, I'm telling you, some of these could produce some big-time winds. I mean, you look at these little clusters of storms, this area of storms around 6 p.m. straddling the Tennessee-Kentucky line, right here in this region, the Bowling Green area. These are winds pushing 50 to 60 mile per hour in gust, okay? I mean, even look here in areas of eastern Tennessee. So some of these storms will be intense. I think there'll be some powerful storms that produce some strong winds blowing through the Nashville area later this evening. So be aware of this. There's some gusty winds behind these storms are quite possible. Take a look at the deep south. I don't think it gets very active for you guys until we get later this afternoon into the evening. But of course, you could get some big storms. We already kind of talked about Tennessee. But I would say it gets active in kind of northern Mississippi first. Could have some big time storms. I would say around the 6 to 9 p.m. range in northern Mississippi. These will begin to move through kind of northern Alabama around the 8 to 9 p.m. range, give or take an hour, guys. It's not always exact science here. But I would say you're going to have a line of storms sweeping through northern Mississippi, even, watch out, kind of southeast Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. And you could have an organized area of storms in, northeast Georgia too, making its way through. And then these will be packing a punch late into the evening. Could be one of those nights where you're thinking you're seeing heat lightning here in the South. That is definitely a myth, guys. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are shaking their head at me like, Mitch, that is not a myth. My grandpa and grandma used to tell me that on the front porch as a kid. It is, guys. All it is, it's to sum it up very quickly in seconds, is it's basically a thunderstorm out in the distance, and you're just seeing the lightning from it. That's why it's important to get a radar, guys. Radars are really awesome. If you ever see lightning in the summer and you see it way off in the distance, but above your head you see nothing but stars, take a look at a radar and then point your radar in that direction that you're seeing the lightning, and chances are there could be a storm anywhere from 20 to 100 miles away that you're seeing lightning from. And that's why you don't hear the thunder, because it's too far away to hear the thunder. But anyways, I'll get off that. But it's got to be could be one of those nights where these storms are making their way through. These could be some pretty powerful storms. If you're in Jackson to Tuscaloosa, to Birmingham, to Atlanta, Georgia, these storms might move through more so later in the evening into the overnight hours, and then they'll make it all the way to the Gulf coastline as we're waking up for our Monday morning. Okay, so could be some quite strong storms. My folks in the Carolinas, I'm kind of excited about this today. We could get some storm action anywhere from early to late afternoon. A first round of storms moves through. This could affect really Greenville, Spartanburg area, Asheville, Hickory, Charlotte, Columbia, Augusta, pretty much everybody in South Carolina. I think you're lacking moisture in North Carolina for these to sustain storm criteria limits. But I certainly think that these could pack a punch in South Carolina, where you have better temperatures and better thermodynamics, okay? This first little line of storms moves through. Could have some big storms down here in eastern and southeast Georgia, too, around later this evening, 8, 9 p.m. But then as you get into the evening, another area of storms moves through. And this is the one I just talked about in the deep south. And we'll see if these kind of hold strong, but it could be definitely a loud late night for Georgia, the Western Carolinas, places like that. And then I think these will lose their steam as you get into Monday morning. Could be a lot of rain that falls with this too, guys. This is something that isn't being talked about as much. North Georgia could get 1 to 2 inches of rain with kind of a multi-line thing today, where you guys could get multiple lines of storms. Maybe 2. I say multiple like it's 4 or 5, but 1 or 2 lines of storms. And I think western and southern sections of South Carolina could get a couple inches of rain too. This is the National Weather Service forecast. It's really liking areas of South Carolina, North Georgia, and even areas of Alabama to see a good bit of rain today. Okay, this is just over the next 24 hours too. So the ingredients kind of driving this, and I kind of talked about this last night. I did in pretty good detail, is with the low pressure. You can see it right in here. Moist air surges up all the way. So I would bet, southern Indiana, all the way into the southern half of Ohio, Illinois, does have a chance to see some severe weather early this afternoon with all this moist air right in here. It's just, do you have the CAPE levels with it? Sometimes you don't always have it like that, okay? But very moist air, guys. I mean, you got dew points well into the 70s into South Carolina, 70s down here, dew points well into the 60s. And what I'm trying to say is these dew points support severe weather. And in response to these higher dew points, you get CAPE levels that are pretty high. And listen, when you got CAPE levels above 1,000 joules per kilogram up near this surface low with better kinematics up here, okay, dew points in the 60s, I'm telling you, somewhere in Kentucky, southern Indiana, even into Ohio into the late afternoon hours, you could have a brief tornado. I'm telling you, this is where you have your best overlap. And yet, CAPE levels aren't over 3,000 joules per kilogram or anything like that, only above 1,000. Okay, but that's all you need. You got that. You got a kinematic atmosphere that's supported for tornadic development, which I'm about to show you. That's why I'm thinking you're going to get a 5% risk issue right in here. But definitely a lot of juice to the atmosphere down here. But you might have some lingering, basically the The only thing that I could say that prevents maybe these storms from being intense tonight in Alabama, the deep south, is the morning convection that we're dealing with right now. But I think the HRRR model is underplaying the Cape levels down here. I think they're going to be much higher. But speaking of the climatic atmosphere, see how you have this closed line? That is our low pressure. You see the wind barbs actually going around. This is our closed low pressure, surface low. Look how this low-level jet increases by this afternoon. You got a low-level jet pushing 30 to 40, even at times 50 knots into this region. So I don't know why they don't. I'm not a professional, but I think you should put a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location somewhere in this region. I really do. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But certainly a low-level jet that supports a tornado or two out here. We'll see. This is the low-level jet, not the mid-level jet. So this is winds about a mile or so above our heads. This definitely supports some tornadoes. So we'll watch to see, and definitely some damaging winds. We'll see what happens. There's more that goes into it than just all the factors I said. But anyways, northeast today, pretty quiet. This low pressure will move in. So some rain showers can make their way into West Virginia, western PA. And then eventually, as we're getting into the overnight hours, what's left over this low pressure will be bring some beneficial rain overnight into Pennsylvania, into West Virginia, into western New York State. So you guys are going to get some rain starting off tomorrow morning, and this low pressure will continue to provide lift for some storms tomorrow too. And we'll talk about that in a later video, but you guys could have a stormy day in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow in portions of the Northeast. The South Central U.S., we kind of already talked about all this. The only two things to really mention is this cluster of storms that we'll watch in North Texas today. This is why you got that slight risk extended all the way into North Texas. These could be some storms that pack a punch into this region, so be aware around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, points south. The only other thing here is you're probably going to have one or two powerful supercells that are drifting off the Front Range into southeast Colorado, maybe into the panhandle of Oklahoma. These could be very photogenic and really gnarly looking storms if you just happen to be a chaser out here. Not a highly populated area, obviously, but certainly a big storm or two in this region right here. And then the north central U.S., pretty quiet weather. Cold front moves in, stabilizes the atmosphere, and a very chill day. Nothing going on out here, and just pretty chill conditions. So enjoy the weather. It's going to be a nice Sunday for you guys for sure. The Rockies, another day where numerous showers and storms will get going. Some of these could be severe in this portion of the western U.S. right into here. But another round of heavy rain in Nevada, all the way into northern Nevada, Idaho, central Idaho, and then southwest and western areas of Montana, northern sections of Utah, and even western Wyoming. Rounds of showers and storms are possible throughout the afternoon today. It's just basically, it's a copy and paste from your last few days of weather here in this region of the country. Temperatures today, I mean, like I said, it's going to be more so like a spring day in the northern plains, the north central U.S., a chilly day in the Great Lakes region. With this cold front that's moving through, we just keep having cold fronts. But anybody south of this cold front, it'll be warm, it'll be humid. Temperatures in the 80s, high humidity. Texas, baking into the 90s. But a nice day in the Northeast. A lower humidity up here where the moist air has not got to, but 80s, 70s, nice day in the Northeast for sure. The western U.S., you continue to have below average temperatures with continuous troughing. But enjoy it. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the temperatures while they stay cool. I'm sure you guys will heat up eventually out here. It's inevitable, I think. But definitely a nice day. Kind of warmish up here in the Pacific Northwest. Enjoy these temperatures. A little bit, not really so much so below, not as much below average up here. I would argue this is more so average right up here, maybe above average. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for watching. God bless all y'all. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you again soon.